Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the title, I am back with another spooky time Christmas story. I want to go ahead and try and make sure I drop at least 5 of these stories before the month is over with. So if this is something that you are interested in watching, go ahead and stay tuned. Of today's story is basically at Christmas, all roads lead to home, and this is Ralph's story. So basically, Ralph is a famous singer who is both adored and loved by very many men and women. But the one thing about Ralph, though, is that he was a very, very selfish individual. And in this story, what Ralph decided to do basically paid the ultimate price. So one time on tour, Ralph was basically doing his concert. You know, he had all his fans, he had the backstage groupies that were always at his door. But Ralph decided that he was not really into that. He wasn't, wanting to basically invite anyone over that night. He just wanted to basically spend some time with himself, just tune out all the noise from the crowds, the concert, the music, everything, just basically to have time with himself. So during this time, when Ralph was basically watching TV and he was almost about to fall asleep, a commercial came on that really basically attracted his attention. And in this commercial, it was this woman that was talking, and she was like, I can give you all the desires of your life. I can give you everything that you want. All you need to do is contact me at this number. Do not hesitate. Your life is about to change. Now, when Ralph was watching the commercial, he basically felt like as if the lady was speaking to himself. It was like as if she was looking at him through the television, looking at him through his soul. So he was hesitant and he was like, man, should I call? Like, I really want to call. And then he was like, well, she's probably another one of them telemarketers and stuff. This is just something that I can do for fun. So I'm going to go ahead and make the call. So Ralph picked up his phone and he dialed the number and he made the call. And basically when he called, the number only rang once before he heard a soft, gentle voice say, hello, how may I help you? And when Ralph heard the voice, he was just kind of like, oh, hello, who is this? Who am I speaking with? And the voice behind the phone basically was like, you already know who you're speaking to. You saw my commercial and therefore you called. What is it that I can help you with today? And Ralph was just basically like, okay, what is it that she can help me with today? And he was just thinking like, okay, this is so dumb. I'm just going to name out anything to see if this will come into fruition, if this woman is really about what she says and if she will grant it, grant it basically to me. So Ralph just basically thought, okay, well, I would like 100 little munchkins to follow me home. And when they get to my home, they will do all and anything that I ask for them to do. And so the lady on the other line basically was like, are you sure this is what you want? And Ralph said, yeah, I said it. That's what I want. And she said, okay, 100 little munchkins are going to follow you home and they will do exactly what it is that you want. And so Ralph just kind of basically laughed it off and he's like, okay, I got it. Okay, we're going to see if these munchkins come to my house, like you say, and then I will see if you were actually what you were about. And the lady on the other line basically said, well, yes, I am what I am about. Is there anything else that you would want or desire from me before hanging up, Ralph? And so Ralph just kind of like sat back and he thought about it. He's like, okay, what else can I say that's really goofy that this woman can give me? And so he sat and he thought for a minute. And the lady on the other line, she was like, Ralph, are you still there? And he said, give me a minute. I'm still thinking. And so Ralph finally sat and he was like, oh, I got it. He was like, when I get home, I want a big box of chocolate covered grasshoppers on my front yard, on my front step, basically so that they will pop out and jump around and just move about everywhere. And the lady on the other line was just like, this is really outlandish. Are you sure this is what you want? And Ralph was like, yes, this is what I want. And so the lady was like, okay, wish granted. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Ralph. Enjoy your concert. And she hung up the phone. Now, mind you, Ralph never told her who he was, never told this woman that he was a famous person. So how did she know that Ralph was basically calling her from his concert? That really questioned him, but he went on to sleep and just went on about the rest of his tour. and the rest of his shows. So as Ralph caught the bus back home, when he walked up, he noticed that a big package was sitting on his front step. And he just really thought to himself, okay, another fan has sent me some more PR or a gift or anything as I usually get. I'm not really going to think much of it. So what he did is when he opened the door, he went ahead and just kind of just scooted the package out of the way with his foot. He didn't think much into it. And then he walked on into his home, got settled, and did everything that he needed to do for the night. So as the night was going on, Ralph remembered, oh yeah, I do have this package outside. I'm so sorry about the glare. He remembered, oh yeah, I do have this package outside. Let me go ahead and see what one of my fans has sent me. So basically what he did is he brought the package in, and it was a big box with a red bow on top. And on it said, to Ralph, from your friend. And Ralph was just kind of like, my friend, what friend would send me a big package like this? They know that I'm not really into stuff like this. So what friend could this be? So he went ahead and untied the ribbon on the box and slowly lifted the cover of the box open. And at this time, to Ralph's surprise, he was shocked to see a bunch of little chocolate covered grasshoppers in this box, and they were just sitting there, and he was just kind of like, what the hell is this and stuff. And then he thought to himself, this is what I asked the lady. But he really couldn't register the thoughts of everything that was going on, because all of a sudden these grasshoppers started to hop out of the box, and they were just hopping all over his apartment, and he was just trying to step on him and squish him and just basically take care and kill them all. But while he was stepping on them, of course, it was splattering chocolate everywhere mixed with, bug guts and different things like that. But it got to the point where he was able to kill all of these chocolate covered grasshoppers. So after cleaning up this mess that he had made, he sat and he was like, oh shit. He realized what was the first thing that he had asked the lady. His first wish and his first desire was basically for 100 munchkins to follow him home and basically do whatever it is that he had asked them to do. Next thing Ralph heard was a ring at the door. He sat there basically hesitant and didn't know for sure if this was something that he really wanted to do. Like, did he really want to answer the door? But next thing you know, he heard some knocking and the doorbell started vigorously ringing. He sat there stunned and was like, okay, I'm not going to answer the door because there might be 100 munchkins at this door, and I'm not going to let them into my home. So eventually the ringing and the knocking on the door stopped, and Ralph went on upstairs and went to bed. The next morning when he woke up, he just kind of peeped outside to see, if anything was out there, if anything looked different from what he was hearing. And when he peeped outside, he just so happened to see like a bunch of little footsteps in his yard. And it was funny because the footsteps were so evident in his yard, and he didn't have any snow. There wasn't any mud or anything like that. But yet these footsteps were so clear, like as if somebody, had left footsteps in the snow or in the mud. And to Ralph's surprise, there was hundreds of them. So after seeing all these footsteps, Ralph just kind of was like, okay, well, if they did come, these munchkins, quote unquote, that I asked for, if they did come, they should be gone now, and I can go on about my life, my day. So as Ralph went on about his day, he did his usual thing, came back home, and while he was sitting there watching TV, again, he heard some knocking at the door, and the doorbell began to ring. Of course, Ralph was hesitant to answer the door, but then his phone rang and he noticed that it was his friend calling him. When he answered the phone, he was just like, hey, what's up, man? And his friend was like, man, why won't you open the door? I'm standing outside. And Ralph was just kind of like, oh, okay, that was you outside? I thought that was someone else. And he's like, nah, like come open the door. And so Ralph got up to open the door, and immediately when he opened the door, all these munchkins began to run into his home. Now, as Ralph was basically almost about to get knocked over by all these munchkins, he was just kind of like, what the hell is going on? And these munchkins were just running through his home, knocking over everything, just throwing stuff across the rooms, and just basically bouncing off of the couches and just running amok. And to Ralph's surprise, he was so shocked, he really couldn't utter out the words to say stop or just tell him to, get out of his home. He was just in such shock that all these little people were running around his home, basically destroying his home. And so the first thing Ralph thought was basically, okay, I need to call this lady. I need to call this lady and ask her to stop. Like, I need these munchkins out of my home. But as Ralph tried to call the lady back, when he called her, basically the number gave a message saying that this line is no longer in service. Your call will be disconnected. Click, and it hung up. So Ralph just sat there in disbelief, saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe all of this is happening." And it's like when he walked back into his home, everything was silent. And he stood there and he just kind of looked around like, where did these munchkins go? And the next thing Ralph knew is he saw all the munchkins just suddenly reappear in front of him. And all of them had like these evil looking faces. Like they look like something off of, if you've seen the movie The Gremlins, that's what all of their faces basically look like. So, of course, Ralph was scared shitless because he was like, okay, what is getting ready to happen? So he just stood there like, okay, what's going on? And then one of the munchkins began to sing one of his songs. And it's like the munchkin was singing it, and then all the other ones joined in singing one of Ralph's songs. This scared Ralph even more. He was like, what the hell is going on? What is this? What is going on? As the munchkins were singing, Ralph began to feel very tired. Like it's almost as if he was drained and he couldn't move. He couldn't even stand up anymore. So he eventually ended up falling to his knees and falling to the floor. And as he was laying on the floor, he could still see the munchkins were singing, like singing his song. But as they were singing, they were getting louder and louder and louder to the point where basically all of them were just like shouting the words to his song. And before Ralph knew it, he felt his eyes close. When Ralph finally opened his eyes, he realized that he was no longer in his home. He was in a land that looked completely unlike his own. In this land, everything was like really little. It was really tiny and small, like almost to the point where the door to the houses basically came up no higher than Ralph's calves. Confused, Ralph just kind of looked around. He was like, where the hell am I? And the next thing Ralph saw was one of the little munchkins come up to him, and he told him, he was like, welcome home. So, you all, that was just like a cute little, funny, not so scary story, Christmas story for you all. I hope you all enjoyed it. Of course, if you like what I present on my channel, because I not only do these little quirky stories, scary stories for you all, but I also do more in-depth, involved, scary stories. But I just wanted to keep it light because we are in the holiday season. But of course, if you enjoy this video, I do encourage you to return back to my channel. And I do encourage you to subscribe. Check out some of the other videos that I have on my channel. I do also talk about, spiritual and magical things. I do different reviews of different like conjure oils. I teach conjure, just basically everything under the window as far as like spiritual aspects and spiritual interests that you guys may have. And of course, as always, if you have any questions or comments, do feel free to leave them in the comment section. And I thank you guys for returning back to my channel, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.